The galaxy had seen many species rise and fall. Empires were built and destroyed. The strong always ruled the weak. That was the law of the stars. But everything changed on the day a single new world entered the Galactic Empire. It was a blue planet, small compared to others, called Earth. No one in the Empire expected much from it. To them, Earth was just another primitive world, another race that would bend their heads and bow before the rulers of the galaxy. For thousands of years, that was the way of things. But this time, things did not go as planned. The first contact began like every other. A fleet of silver ships arrived in the skies of Earth. They hovered above the cities, blocking out the sun. The people on the ground felt fear. The governments of Earth sent messages, desperate for answers. The aliens spoke only one sentence: bow before the Empire. The Empire did not ask. They never asked. They commanded. And always, the new worlds obeyed. But Earth was different. Humanity had known war, pain, and struggle for thousands of years. Their history was full of blood and fire. They had destroyed themselves many times and still stood up again. When the alien voice echoed across their skies, something deep inside humans stirred. It was not fear. It was anger. The rulers of the Galactic Empire expected a simple surrender. Instead, they received silence. For 3 days, Earth gave no answer. The aliens grew impatient. They sent down soldiers, armored and tall, their weapons glowing with energy. They expected no resistance. But when their boots touched the ground, they were met by something they had not seen in centuries. Humans standing with weapons of their own, ready to fight. The first clash was small. A group of alien warriors marched through a ruined city, certain of victory. But shadows moved among the rubble. Human soldiers rose from hiding places. Their eyes were hard, their hands steady. The aliens laughed at the primitive bullets fired at them. But the laughter ended quickly. The humans had studied. They had adapted. And when the dust cleared, it was not the humans who lay on the ground, it was the Empire's soldiers. The news shocked the galaxy. No one had ever dared to resist the Empire in such a way. For centuries, entire species had fallen to their knees without a single shot fired. But this new race, these humans, had spilled the blood of the Empire on the very first day. The Emperor himself heard the reports. His voice was cold with disbelief. "A primitive world dares to defy us," he whispered. His advisors begged him to crush Earth quickly, to send a fleet large enough to burn it into ashes. But the Emperor was curious. He wanted to see how far this strange species would go. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans gathered. The governments united in a way they had never done before. Old enemies shook hands. Old borders were erased. The message was clear: if we do not stand together, we will fall alone. And yet, behind the unity, there was fear. The Empire was ancient, powerful, and merciless. No single world had ever stopped them. But still, humans remembered their history. They remembered battles fought against impossible odds. They remembered revolutions, rebellions, and victories carved from defeat. The human spirit was not built to kneel. On the 4th day, Earth sent its reply. A single message was transmitted into space, carried across the stars to the waiting fleet. The message was simple, only 3 words: "We will not." The Empire's commanders laughed when they heard it. They called Earth foolish, arrogant, and doomed. But in the quiet corners of the galaxy, other species listened. Slaves, broken worlds, and conquered races heard the human voice. And for the first time in centuries, they felt something new: hope. The fleet in orbit prepared for war. Thousands of ships turned their weapons toward Earth. The skies were filled with fire. But humanity did not tremble. In underground bunkers, in hidden bases, in old factories turned into war machines, humans were ready. The first great battle began above the planet's atmosphere. Alien ships unleashed storms of energy. Earth's defenses cracked, cities burned, and oceans boiled. But the humans answered with something the Empire had never seen before. Not just weapons, not just resistance, but a will so strong it could not be measured. When the smoke cleared, the Empire had taken ground, but at a terrible cost. For every human city they destroyed, they lost ships. For every soldier they landed, 100 more never returned. The Empire's commanders grew uneasy. Something was wrong. This was not how conquest was supposed to go. In the middle of the chaos, one alien commander spoke words that spread like wildfire across the Empire. These humans, they do not fight like others. They fight as if every battle is their last. They fight as if defeat is not possible. The Empire had thought Earth would bow in silence. Instead, humanity had spoken in fire. And this was only the beginning. The Galactic Empire did not take defeat lightly. Their ships were made to crush worlds, their armies trained to break entire civilizations. Yet on Earth, their soldiers had bled, and their pride had been wounded. The Emperor's voice thundered across the council chambers. Double the fleets. Show these humans what happens when a world refuses to bow. And so, the second wave came. It was larger, stronger, and far more merciless. Across the blackness of space, hundreds of warships appeared, their metallic bodies shining like knives. They formed a wall of steel around Earth, ready to choke the planet until nothing survived. On the ground, humans watched the skies darken. Many felt fear, but there was no turning back now. Earth had given its answer. There was no surrender, no negotiation. The people knew what was coming, and they prepared. In the underground bunkers, scientists and engineers worked without sleep. Old weapons were taken from museums, rebuilt and reforged. Technology was stolen from the wrecks of fallen alien ships. Every bullet, every rocket, every machine was crafted with one goal: survival. But survival alone was not enough. Humanity needed something more. Something greater. Something that could show the galaxy that Earth would not only resist, it would strike back. That moment came during the second battle. The Empire began with a merciless attack. Their ships rained fire across the surface. Mountains cracked, seas boiled, and cities were torn apart. The humans fought back with missiles and jets, but they were no match for the glowing beams of alien cannons. Yet, in the middle of chaos, the humans revealed their first surprise. From deep underground, hidden in secret bases, giant machines rose into the skies. They were not graceful like alien ships, but they were deadly. These machines were built with human steel, powered by human engines, and armed with alien weapons stolen from the first battle. The Empire's commanders sneered. To them, these machines looked primitive, fragile, and slow. But when the first human war machine locked its weapons on an alien cruiser and fired, the sneers turned into silence. The alien ship exploded. Not damaged. Not cracked. Exploded. In a single shot, one of the Empire's mighty ships was gone, scattered into fire and fragments. The humans had taken alien technology and reshaped it in a way no one else had ever dared. They had turned weakness into strength, defeat into invention. The battlefield shifted. More human war machines rose, firing again and again. Alien ships fell from the sky like burning comets. For the first time in thousands of years, the Empire's fleets were forced to retreat. But Earth's victory came with a price. Cities were gone. Millions were dead. And still, the Empire was not finished. This was only the second wave. The true storm was still waiting. News of the battles spread across the galaxy. Other worlds watched with disbelief. For so long, the Empire had seemed unstoppable, unbreakable. But now, a single planet, one small blue world, had done the impossible. It had wounded the giant. Whispers began to rise in secret. On slave worlds, the whispers grew louder. If humans can fight, maybe we can too. The Empire heard those whispers. They grew afraid, but fear only made them more brutal. Orders were given: no more games. Burn the world. Leave nothing alive. And so, the third wave prepared. But humanity was also preparing. Beneath the ashes of ruined cities, in hidden factories, a plan was taking shape. The leaders of Earth gathered in a dark war room. Around them were maps, star charts, and broken weapons taken from their enemies. One general spoke the words that changed everything: "We have defended enough. It is time to strike." The others were silent, shocked. Strike? Against the Empire? It sounded insane. The Empire ruled thousands of worlds. Earth was only one. But the general's eyes burned with fire. "We have something they don't," he continued. "We have nothing to lose. They think fear will break us. But fear is our weapon. They don't know how dangerous we are when cornered." And slowly, one by one, the leaders nodded. The plan was set. Humanity would not wait for the Empire to destroy them piece by piece. They would take the fight into space. The galaxy did not know it yet, but a storm was coming. A storm born from human anger, human pain, and human will. In the silence of space, alien scouts reported strange movements from Earth. Factories that should have been dead were alive with fire. Weapons that should not exist were being built in secret. The reports reached the Emperor. He laughed. To him, it was nothing. "Let them build," he said. "It will make their defeat more amusing." But in the shadows, in the ruins, in the hearts of humans, something far greater than weapons was being forged. It was not steel. It was not fire. It was resolve. And soon, the Empire would learn what happens when humanity refuses to bow. The third wave of the Empire came like a storm. It was no longer about conquest. It was about fear. The Emperor had given a single order: burn the world. Make them an example. From the darkness of space, the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen descended on Earth. Thousands of ships, endless firepower, and armies greater than anything humanity could imagine. To the Empire, this was the final blow. To them, no species could stand against such power. But Earth was ready. For weeks, humanity had worked in silence. Factories hidden deep underground roared with life. Engineers and scientists worked day and night, fusing human steel with alien technology. The broken pieces of fallen ships were rebuilt into new weapons. And in secret, a new fleet was born. They called it the Iron Dawn. These ships were not as large as the Empire's. They were not as beautiful or advanced. But they were deadly. They were built for one purpose: to kill. Every piece of human rage, every drop of grief, every spark of defiance was forged into their steel. And when the Empire's fleet entered orbit, the Iron Dawn rose to meet it. The battle began with silence. Then, in a single heartbeat, the stars lit up. Explosions tore through the void. Beams of light cut across the skies. Missiles streaked upward like fire from Earth itself. The heavens shook. The Empire expected an easy slaughter. But the humans fought with something the Empire had never faced before. They fought with fury. They fought with desperation. They fought like a species that refused to die. One by one, human ships tore into the enemy lines. Alien cruisers exploded under missile barrages. Frigates were ripped apart by plasma cannons turned against them. Every time a human ship fell, 3 alien ships went with it. Still, the Empire pressed forward. They had numbers. They had endless resources. But the humans had something greater. They had the will to fight until nothing was left. On the ground, the world burned. Alien soldiers landed in waves, marching across shattered cities. But everywhere they went, humans were waiting. In ruined streets, in broken towers, in tunnels beneath the earth, they struck like shadows. Traps exploded under alien machines. Ambushes tore through armored columns. The aliens expected fear. Instead, they found resistance in every corner. An alien commander sent a message to his fleet: "This war is different. These humans, they fight like they are already dead, but refuse to fall." The Emperor ignored the warnings. To him, resistance meant nothing. He believed the humans were delaying the inevitable. But even he began to notice something troubling. His fleets were dying faster than they should. His armies were bleeding more than they ever had. And then, it happened. In the middle of the battle, one of the Empire's largest warships, a dreadnought feared across the stars, fell silent. Its shields flickered, its weapons powered down, and then it exploded in a flash that lit the skies. The galaxy shook. No one had ever destroyed a dreadnought before. No one, until now. Humanity had done the impossible. The news spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, slaves whispered. Conquered worlds lifted their heads. The Empire, unbreakable for thousands of years, had been broken in one single moment. But Earth did not celebrate. The battle was not over. The cost was too high. Entire cities were gone. Millions more were dead. And though the dreadnought had fallen, the rest of the fleet still rained fire on the planet. The leaders of Earth met in their hidden war room. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow. Victory felt like loss. And yet, the general who had first spoken of striking back now leaned forward. "This is only the beginning," he said. "We can't just defend. We can't just survive. We must make them afraid." The others stared at him. Afraid. The Empire ruled through fear. It had always been the weapon of the strong. But for the first time, the thought entered their minds. What if humanity could turn that weapon against them? And so, a new plan was born. While the world mourned, while the Empire prepared its fourth wave, the humans began building again. This time, not just for defense. This time, not just for survival. They would build something greater. Rumors spread among the alien scouts who survived the battle. They spoke of strange signals from Earth, of machines larger than cities, of weapons hidden deep beneath the oceans. When the reports reached the Emperor, his laughter was thin. "Let them try," he said again. But his eyes narrowed. For the first time, there was doubt in his voice. For centuries, the Empire had been the predator and the galaxy its prey. But now, a new predator had risen. A predator with fire in its veins and steel in its hands. A predator that refused to kneel. The humans were no longer defending. They were preparing to hunt. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy had never seen humans beyond their own system. Until now, Earth's battles were fought on its soil and skies. But after the fall of the dreadnought, everything changed. The leaders of Earth knew they could not wait for the next wave. They had to carry the war to the Empire. And so, the Iron Dawn fleet prepared for its first true journey into the stars. The plan was dangerous, almost insane. Instead of waiting for the Empire's fourth wave, humanity would strike first. They would not attack the core of the Empire, it was too strong. Instead, they would target supply lines, shipyards, and communication stations. They would bleed the giant, piece by piece. When the fleet launched, the world watched in silence. Families stood on rooftops, children pressed their faces to screens, and soldiers saluted as the human ships rose through the atmosphere, glowing against the night sky. It was not just a fleet, it was the will of an entire species, forged into steel and fire. The first target was an outpost on the edge of the Empire's territory. A place where fuel and supplies were gathered for the next invasion. It was guarded, but not heavily. The Empire believed Earth was too broken to strike back. They were wrong. The human fleet arrived in silence, slipping from the shadows of space. The alien outpost did not expect an attack. By the time alarms rang, it was too late. Missiles streaked through the void, tearing through docking bays and storage platforms. Explosions lit up the night. The defenders scrambled, but the humans moved with deadly precision. Every shot counted. Every strike was planned. And when the smoke cleared, the outpost was gone, reduced to burning debris floating in space. The humans did not stay to celebrate. They vanished back into the darkness, leaving only ruin behind. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The humans have struck the Empire. It was unthinkable. No one had ever dared to attack them directly. No one had ever left the Empire bleeding. Yet the small blue planet had done it. The Emperor's rage shook the halls of his palace. His voice thundered. Find them. Burn their fleet. Show them the price of defiance. But finding the humans was not easy. Their ships did not fight like the Empire's. They did not march in lines, they did not follow patterns. They struck from the shadows, vanished, and struck again. They were everywhere and nowhere. In the dark corners of space, the humans became whispers. Ghosts. Hunters. One alien captain who survived a raid spoke in terror. They do not fight like soldiers. They fight like predators. But it was not just raids. Each attack carried a message. In destroyed stations, carved into steel, the humans left 3 words: we will not. The message spread far beyond the Empire's reach. Conquered worlds heard it. Slaves in chains repeated it. The spark of rebellion that had been dead for centuries now began to burn again. The humans had become more than fighters. They had become a symbol. Yet, victory came at a cost. Every raid pushed the human fleet to its limits. Resources were scarce. Every loss was heavy. And the Empire was learning. With each battle, their ships adapted. With each ambush, they grew more cautious. Soon, the humans knew they would face a trap. That trap came sooner than expected. One mission targeted a shipyard where the Empire built cruisers. The humans attacked with fury, their missiles ripping through the docks. But then, the stars shifted. From the blackness, dozens of hidden ships appeared. The Empire had been waiting. The human fleet was surrounded. Alarms blared. Human captains shouted orders. Ships turned and twisted, firing everything they had. Explosions filled the void. Alien ships closed in from every side. For a moment, it seemed like the end. Humanity's first strike into the galaxy would also be its last. But in the middle of chaos, the largest human ship, the Resolute, moved forward. Its captain spoke only one sentence before cutting the channel: "We are not prey." The Resolute charged straight into the enemy line. Its cannons roared, its shields burned, and its engines screamed. Alien ships broke apart under its fire. The path cleared for the rest of the fleet. One by one, the human ships escaped into the shadows of space. But the Resolute did not return. It was gone, lost in a blaze of light and steel. The survivors carried the news back to Earth. They had won, but at a terrible cost. The humans had struck, but the Empire was closing in. Still, the galaxy heard the story. A single human ship had stood against an entire fleet and torn a hole through it. To the slaves and rebels, it was not a loss, it was proof. Proof that the Empire could bleed. Proof that the humans would never bow. And as the stars grew darker, whispers spread again. If the humans fight, then so can we. The Emperor's rage deepened. His fleets were strong, but his control was weakening. And in the shadows of the galaxy, humanity prepared for the next step. This was no longer just survival. This was war. The loss of the Resolute weighed heavily on Earth. It was a ship of hope, a symbol of defiance, and now it was gone. Many feared that without it, the human fleet would break. But instead, the opposite happened. The story of the ship's sacrifice spread like wildfire, not only across Earth but across the stars. Slaves whispered the tale in the dark corners of mines. Conquered soldiers repeated it in hushed voices. And in places where hope had been buried for centuries, a spark began to burn again. The Empire had ruled through fear. But now, fear was no longer enough. One night, in a secret chamber on a distant world, a group of alien leaders met. They were rebels, fugitives, and survivors of the Empire's cruelty. 4 years they had lived in hiding, waiting for death. But now they spoke of something new. "The humans fight," one of them said. "They stand where no one has stood for centuries. If they can resist, why can't we?" Another leader shook his head. "The humans are reckless. their world will burn. To fight the Empire is to die. But the first leader's eyes burned with fire. Maybe. But to kneel is already death. I would rather die with a blade in my hand than live on my knees. And so, for the first time in centuries, a rebellion began to rise. It started small. A mine on a slave world exploded in flames as workers turned on their masters. A garrison of soldiers vanished in the night, cut down by their own prisoners. A supply convoy disappeared, destroyed by ships flying no banners. Everywhere, whispers grew louder. The humans have risen. The galaxy will rise too. On Earth, the leaders watched the reports with disbelief. They had expected only survival, only to delay the Empire. But now, they realized something greater was happening. Humanity was not just fighting for itself. It was leading a storm. Yet, storms are not gentle. They destroy everything in their path. The Empire responded with terror. Worlds that showed signs of rebellion were burned from orbit. Populations were slaughtered. Cities were turned to glass. The Emperor wanted the galaxy to see the price of defiance. But the more he burned, the stronger the rebellion grew. Every destroyed world was a reminder. Every atrocity was proof. The Empire was not invincible. And then, something unexpected happened. One alien fleet, small, battered, and desperate, appeared near Earth. At first, humans prepared for battle, certain it was another enemy attack. But then, the alien commander sent a message. It was simple: we will fight with you. For the first time in history, humanity had an ally. The aliens were not strong. Their ships were old, their weapons weak. But their hearts were fierce, and they had one thing that mattered more than numbers. They had the will to resist. Together, the humans and their new allies launched raids deeper into the Empire. Side by side, their fleets struck at supply lines, shipyards, and prisons. Where humans brought fire, the aliens brought knowledge. Secrets of the Empire's defenses, hidden bases, and weaknesses long forgotten. For the first time, the galaxy saw something new: unity against the Empire. But unity brought danger. The Emperor, furious at the spreading rebellion, gave an order darker than any before. He summoned his elite guard, the Shadow Legion, a fleet of killers feared even among the Empire's own. These were not soldiers. They were executioners. Their purpose was not conquest, but extermination. And their target was Earth. The humans did not know yet. They fought their battles in distant stars, unaware that the greatest threat of all was already moving toward their home. But whispers traveled faster than ships. From the edges of the galaxy, messages reached the human fleet. The Shadow Legion is coming. They will burn your world. The news hit like a hammer. For all their victories, for all their defiance, Earth was still vulnerable. The homeworld could not withstand the full force of the Legion. If Earth fell, everything would end. The leaders of Earth faced a terrible choice. Should they pull their fleet back to defend their world? Or should they continue striking at the Empire, leaving Earth exposed but keeping the rebellion alive? Silence filled the war room. Finally, the general who had once said, "We must strike," spoke again. His voice was heavy, but steady. If Earth falls, humanity dies. But if the rebellion dies, the galaxy will kneel again. We must trust our world to endure. We must carry the fire forward. The decision was made. The fleet would not return. Earth would face the storm alone. And so, while the Iron Dawn and their new allies pushed deeper into enemy space, the Shadow Legion closed in on the blue planet. In the quiet before the storm, the people of Earth prepared. Every man, woman, and child knew what was coming. The skies would burn again. The ground would shake. The oceans would rise in steam. But still, they repeated the same words, carved into steel, whispered in streets, painted on walls: "We will not." The galaxy watched. The Empire moved. And Earth braced for the darkest battle of all. The Shadow Legion came without warning. Their ships were black as night, sharp as blades, and silent as death. They did not send messages. They did not demand surrender. They simply appeared above Earth, thousands of them, blocking out the stars. For a moment, the world stood still. People looked to the skies and saw only darkness. They had fought before. They had endured waves of invasion. But this was different. This was not war. This was execution. The Shadow Legion opened fire. In a heartbeat, the world shook. Cities vanished under storms of fire. Oceans boiled. Mountains split apart. The air itself screamed. The Legion did not fight like the other fleets. They did not conquer, they destroyed. But Earth did not break. In hidden bunkers and deep fortresses, humans had prepared for this day. From the ground, missiles roared upward. Anti-air guns blazed. Shields flickered alive, protecting what little they could. Civilian ships evacuated millions into hidden shelters. And through the chaos, one message echoed across the planet: we fight. We endure. The first hours were a nightmare. The Shadow Legion tore through defenses with ease. Their technology was older than time, perfected for one purpose: killing. Entire human squadrons were erased before they could fire. The skies burned red. But even as the world seemed to fall, resistance grew fiercer. Human commanders refused to retreat. Every street, every building, every ruined city became a battlefield. Soldiers fought from the shadows. Civilians carried weapons. Children delivered supplies through fire and ash. The Shadow Legion expected terror. Instead, they found rage. One alien commander reported in shock: they do not run. They do not bow. They fight until nothing is left of them. And then came Earth's final weapon. From the depths of the oceans, massive structures began to rise. They had been built in secret, hidden for this moment. Towers of steel, bristling with weapons, powered by stolen alien cores. They were called the Ocean Spears. The Shadow Legion ships turned to fire upon them, but it was too late. The spears unleashed storms of light. Beams cut through the black ships, slicing them apart. Explosions lit the seas. For the first time in the battle, the Legion faltered. The humans pushed back. Fighter jets, rebuilt with alien tech, swarmed through the skies. War machines marched across the ruined land, firing into the dark. Missiles streaked upward, smashing through enemy shields. Earth bled, but Earth struck back. The battle raged for days. Neither side yielded. The planet itself groaned under the weight of destruction. Whole continents burned. Skies turned black. Oceans boiled away in clouds of steam. And yet, humanity endured. In the fourth day of battle, something happened that no one could have imagined. The Shadow Legion began to retreat. Not all at once. Not in panic. But slowly, carefully, as if something had changed. Their fleets pulled back from Earth's skies, leaving behind burning wreckage and ruined cities. The humans watched with disbelief. They had expected death. They had prepared to fight until nothing remained. But somehow, against the most feared fleet in the galaxy, Earth had survived. The cost was unimaginable. Billions were gone. Entire nations erased. The surface of the planet was scarred forever. But still, the blue world turned beneath the stars. Still, humanity breathed. And then the truth came. The Shadow Legion had not retreated because they were defeated. They had retreated because something greater was coming. The Emperor himself was moving. For the first time in history, the Emperor would leave his throne. His fleets would gather. His power would fall upon Earth with the weight of 1,000 burning suns. The galaxy trembled. For centuries, the Emperor had ruled without lifting a hand. His armies and fleets had done his work. If he was moving, it meant only one thing: he considered humanity a true threat. On Earth, the survivors did not despair. They buried their dead. They rebuilt their defenses. And in every ruined city, words were painted on broken walls: "We are still here." Far away, the human fleet and their new allies received the news. They had struck many blows, but now they faced the final storm. The Emperor's wrath was coming, and it would decide the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. The general of Earth's fleet spoke only once to his people, and his words carried across every ship, every bunker, every broken street. We were told to bow. We refused. We were told to die. We endured. Now the Emperor himself comes to end us. Let him come. He will see what humanity truly is. The galaxy held its breath. The Emperor moved. Earth waited. The final battle was near. The galaxy had never seen the Emperor leave his throne. For thousands of years, his word alone had commanded armies, destroyed worlds, and bent civilizations to his will. His presence was legend, his power unquestioned. But now, he was coming. The largest fleet ever assembled gathered in the skies above Earth. It was not thousands of ships. It was tens of thousands. A sea of fire and steel stretching across the stars. In its center was the Emperor's own flagship, a massive fortress, larger than a moon, bristling with weapons that could shatter continents. The galaxy watched in silence. Some prayed for humanity's survival. Others waited for the inevitable end. For if the Emperor himself had moved, how could anyone stand against him? On Earth, what was left of humanity prepared for its last battle. Cities lay in ruins, oceans burned, the skies still heavy with smoke. Yet in every bunker, in every hidden base, people whispered the same words, "We will not." The Iron Dawn fleet and their alien allies gathered above the planet. They were small compared to the Emperor's armada, but they stood firm. Together, they formed a shield around Earth, knowing it would not hold, but refusing to step aside. The battle began with silence. Then the stars exploded. The Emperor's armada unleashed a storm of fire. Beams of light cut through space. Planets shook. Human and alien ships shattered under the first wave. Yet still, the defenders did not break. They returned fire, missiles streaking into the void, cannons roaring, shields flaring. The Emperor watched from his throne aboard the flagship. His face was calm, his eyes cold. To him, it was already decided. They will fall, he whispered. But something he did not expect began to unfold. The rebellion, born from humanity's defiance, was no longer whispers. It was no longer sparks. All across the galaxy, enslaved worlds rose up at once. Fleets once owned by the Empire turned their guns on their masters. Armies of rebels stormed fortresses. Supply lines burned. The Emperor's fleets were stretched thin. And here, above Earth, his enemies were united. The humans fought like no other species had ever fought. They did not fight for conquest. They did not fight for glory. They fought for survival, for freedom, for the right to stand unbroken. Every ship destroyed was a sacrifice. Every soldier fallen was a shield for the living. And then, the moment came. The Iron Dawn fleet carved a path through the chaos, straight toward the Emperor's flagship. Ship after ship fell, but the path opened. At the front of the charge was the Valor, the last great human warship still standing. Its hull was torn, its engines burned, but its cannons blazed with fury. The Emperor looked upon it with disdain. "One ship dares to challenge me," he said. But the Valor did not fight alone. Alien allies swarmed at its side. Together, they fired with everything they had. The Emperor's shields rippled, then cracked. For the first time in history, the unbreakable flagship was wounded. The Emperor rose from his throne, his voice shaking the hulls of his ship. Enough. He unleashed the full power of his flagship. Waves of fire tore through the fleet. Dozens of ships vanished in blinding light. The Valor burned, its hull splitting apart. Yet even as it died, the ship charged forward, ramming into the Emperor's flagship with one final scream of defiance. The explosion ripped through the giant fortress. The Emperor's shields collapsed. Fires spread across its surface. For the first time, the galaxy saw the Emperor's power falter. And in that silence, humanity's voice rose. A transmission, broadcast from Earth, carried across the stars. We are humanity. We will never bow. The words spread through every rebellion, every battlefield, every broken world. The galaxy roared with them. The Emperor's armies began to crumble. Soldiers deserted. Fleets broke apart. The fear that had ruled for centuries was gone. The Emperor's flagship, burning and broken, fled into the darkness. He was not dead, but he was no longer invincible. His empire was shattering, and the galaxy was no longer his to command. Above Earth, the survivors watched the wreckage drift through space. The cost had been beyond measure. The planet was scarred. Billions were gone. The fleet was shattered. But humanity still lived. Humanity had stood against the Emperor himself, and survived. And now, the galaxy would never forget. In the ruins of a city, a child picked up a piece of fallen steel and carved 3 words into a wall. We will not. Those words became more than defiance. They became a promise. A promise that humanity would not only endure but lead the galaxy into a future free of chains. The day the Emperor came to Earth was meant to be the day humanity bowed. Instead, it became the day the galaxy learned to rise. And so, the story of Earth spread through every star. The story of the day humanity refused to bow.